Hi everyone, welcome again to 3x Point. This is the sixth session since we started our hands-on learning on SQL and data analytics. So, the week that's just passed, we've learned a number of things and we will continue our learning by solving a problem today, solving a business case. So, let me quickly bring up our business case so we can look at it together and see how we're going to solve it. Don't forget, this business case was developed as a result of the training and the extra videos that you have watched from 3x Point portal. So we wouldn't be going outside what we believe you already know. So, and that's how we will continue building up the learning process. So the problem statement says you work as the data analyst for AdventureWorks. AdventureWorks is like a pseudo company by Microsoft. So they have a lot of data that we can play around with. And the company is contemplating a marketing campaign and tagged the campaign buy 10 get 10 free. You're required to use data from this table, sales order detail, on AdventureWorks database to identify patterns and relationship between the number of times a product was purchased and the quantity purchased made each time a customer purchases a product. Now, this is an important analysis for you to do so that you can provide the company with informed reasons why the marketing department should review this campaign. Now, let me say something brief about this. If your company says they want to embark on a marketing campaign and they intend to title it buy 10 get 10 free, you would need to be able to they need to be able to justify that these figures are based on what they already know, not some guesswork. And for you to prove that to them, you as the data analyst need to go into the data that the company already have and do some analysis on that to be able to identify, hey, how feasible is it even for anybody to buy 10 in the first place? And giving them an extra 10, does it make any sense to them? Do they really want that extra 10? These are the critical thinking that you want to kick in. So to get on with this, it says in this exercise you required to present only 3 columns of data. Now don't forget that it's like we're building a house and these are the building blocks. So we're still getting somewhere with this. Obviously, by the time you come up with the data, because we already said that this is what you're expected to bring back. So looking at this is not the end of the story. The end of the story is by the time you plot it into, you bring it into your Tableau or any of the reporting tools, SSRS, ClickView, and you can do some more analysis on the data. So basically, once you get this kind of data out, if you're able to successfully get the data out like this, then we can get on to the next stage, which by next session we would now start showing you how to get this data onto the dashboard and do some deeper analysis on that. So at this stage we're concerned about 2 columns, which are the product ID and the order quantity. And let's get started. Let's see how far we can go with this. Someone is saying something. It is small. Can you enlarge, please? Well, I could try to enlarge. Let's see. Let me see. Let me see. Okay, how does it look now? Does it look bigger? And if I may ask, did anyone actually attempt this problem at all? I can see, yeah, I can see, who's that? I can see Damlola, I can see Kane there. Did anyone actually attempt to solve this problem, and were you able to get anywhere with it? I'd like to hear your challenges actually. Let me unmute someone. Okay. Yeah. Is anyone trying to talk? No? Or you didn't even try to solve the problem at all? It's Listen, it's really important that you attempt to solve these problems, because trust me, these are the kind of problems that you'll be faced when you find yourself at the position of a data analyst. Okay, someone said I tried but got stuck. All right, you will we'll relieve you of the mystery right now. So what I'm gonna do is actually let me copy this and put it in our management studio. Open a new workplace. Okay, because I like to have a continued view of what our problem is. Okay. All right. So solving this problem now, I just want you to go with me with a trend of thought. The trend of the series of the kind of things that go on in my head as I solve the problem. I want you to try to imbibe the same kind of thing, or if you can pick it up and even enhance and become better than me, I'll be happy. So, what I tend to do normally is this: I can read the business problem multiple times. And when I'm being given problems like this, I tend to eliminate things and just go straight to certain points. So what I do is I come up with highlights, pointers. So I go back to reading it. You work as the data analyst for AdventureWorks. Of course, I know where I work. That's fine. And the company is contemplating a marketing campaign, and tag the campaign buy 10 get 10 free. I want to get that out first. Buy 10 get 10 free. Okay, what else can I look at? You're required to use data from the table. Okay, I want to get the name of the table out because that's very important. Okay, what else can I get out from the problem statements? So this table on AdventureWorks database to identify patterns and relationship. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for patterns. Yes, hello. Okay, all right, I'll do that now. Okay, how can I actually make this bigger if I run a query? Okay, let me do this. Select one. Let me see if this helps. Does it look better now? Does it look better? Oh, great. You're welcome. Okay, so in that case, I may have to uh, bring this down. Actually, I'm just gonna close this off. Yeah, so we have a bit of view. All right, so we've taken this table name out of it, and it says on our virtual database to identify patterns and relationships. So patterns and relationships is what I'm looking for, basically, between the number of times a product was purchased. Now we're getting into some good stuff here. Number of times product was purchased. So I want to know how many times a product was purchased. So as I've just said this back again in my head, okay, I could just write it down. Sometimes it might even be a paper that you have beside you where you could just scribble things. So I just said something right now. Even though I've written it before, number of times product was purchased. Okay, how many times the product was purchased. Okay, trust me, they're absolutely the same thing, but these go a long way to help you identify the problem when you look at a specific thing from different dimensions, you know. So that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm trying to solve the same problem and looking at the same thing from different angles. Okay, so again, I will go on to this is where I was. So number of times product was purchased and the quantity purchased made each time. Okay, let me just get that down. Quantity purchased each time. Okay, quantity purchased each time what? Quantity purchased each time a customer purchases a product. So it's actually a relationship between quantity purchased time. So quantity purchased time and product. So I want to measure the relationship between these things. The quantity purchased of a product, yes, each time the product was purchased, right? So quantity purchased of the product each time the product was purchased. So I can take that away. So I've actually brought both together. So what I'm looking for again is I'm looking for the quantity purchased of a specific product, right? I also want to know each time the product was purchased. So I want to know the quantity that was purchased each time the product was purchased. That's what I'm looking for here. So I can actually think of an example in my head and say, okay, so let's say I have product A. So let's say I have product A, and let's say it was purchased 12 times, and each time it was purchased they bought 3 of it, right? So I can have something like this. So I have product A, it has been bought 12 times, and each time they purchased it they bought 3 of A. So this sentence right here gives me an understanding that okay, I'm looking for something like this. So that means I can also have product A again at another time that was purchased maybe 5 times, and each time it was purchased, you know, they bought 4 of it, right? So, this may not entirely be your end answer, but it's just gonna help you to get closer to what you're trying to solve at. So you can scribble something like that down somewhere. All right, let's see what else. So the quantity purchased each time the customer purchases a product. Okay, so and then it concludes by saying this is important analysis for you so that you can provide the company with from blah 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 blah. Right. So that's it. You know. Now going back into this, we've been given some hints, and the hint says an example is this. So they said, okay, quantity, order quantity, product ID, and number of times purchased at this quantity. So the two columns to be used are this and this. So I'm going to need this too. So the two columns are this. So the actual query. So let me connect back into my database. Right, and go into AdventureWorks. So we are in AdventureWorks, and we're able to slim down our requirement. Right. So the first thing is sales order detail. So let's go into that. Let's go into sales schema, and sales order detail. So let's have a look at the columns that we have there. So we have all of these columns, and let me bring this up. So the good thing is we've been told the columns that we need to return back. So that makes our job very easy. So you can actually write your select statement by saying select, what's the first column? Product ID. I like to do something like this, from yeah, so I can have good intelligence. So the intelligence can just give me, some autocomplete kind of functionality. Let me bring product ID to come first. Product ID, comma, and this is basically what we're being asked to do. So we have product ID and order quantity. So if you look at this, I wouldn't expect you to start going into the table and start looking for relationships like this and start scrolling and say, oh, okay, I can see 756. Let me look for where 756 exists again, and try to identify the relationship. It doesn't work that way. I mean, that's prone to error. That's prone to inconsistency. That's prone to a lot of things. And it's not even professional anyway. So what you want to do is this. You want to know how many times, the number of times product was purchased. So how would you know how many times a product was purchased? How would you know how many times a product was purchased? Can anybody try to answer this question? How many times was this product purchased? Is there anyone that would like to answer this question? Okay, I take it no one wants to answer this question. All right. So the first thing that comes to mind is to count the number of times. Just count it. Count the number of times that this product was purchased. So I want to know how many times product ID 771 was purchased. How many times 773 was purchased? How many times 778 was purchased? You see, sometimes you can have very long business requirements like this that will point out different things, which the solution might just be a 2 to 3 lines of code. All right, it's just a matter of understanding what the business actually want or what the problem actually is. And because we have a function in SQL Server called count, so I could just say count the number of times product ID was purchased. Yeah, that's how to do it. Product ID. But if you run this query, we're going to run into an error. And what does the error say? It says column sales.sales.detail.product ID, which is this, yes, is invalid in the select list because it is not contained in either an aggregate function or the group by clause. You see, anytime you are having to use a function, an aggregate function, it's either you're selecting that function alone or you are using a group by. I'll show you what I mean. Let's say I did select count product ID from this table. If I select this and run, I would have a count. And what this has just done is it has counted all the product ID from this table. It's different from sum. We're not summing. We're not saying, let me remove this. We're not saying 707 plus 707 plus 707 plus 7. That's not what we're doing. We're actually counting like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's what count does. And if you look at this, it says 121,317 rows. And if I did count, what would it return to me? Same thing. 121,317. So same thing it did when I didn't use count. It just listed them out. But if I didn't want it to list it out, I could just count everything. And the only reason why this didn't fail is because it's the only thing we're selecting from this query. So, but this is not what we want. So we'll remove that. But in this case, how come it's not working? It's because we have other columns in the select list. And when you have other columns like this, you want to use group by, because you're saying, okay, yes, I want to count these things. I want to count how many times this product ID exists. But based on what grouping? Because I have order quantity, I have product ID. How am I gonna group them? You know? So let me put a group by clause and then you would see what I mean. Group by. So anytime you have aggregate function like this, all the columns in the select list has to exist in the group by. Oops, sorry. I pressed something else. Just cancel it. So it has to be like this. So if I execute, then what we're now saying is, okay, I have gone ahead to count how many times product ID of 1815, okay, was purchased, or it has the order quantity of 1. And it says 67 times. That's what's happening here. That's the reason why it was failing when we didn't have this clause, this group by clause. But now that we have a group by, it understands that, okay, it's going to perform this count based on this grouping, this two grouping, right? So let's say let's put a filter. Okay, let's put a filter. Having product ID equals 815. So you will get a better glimpse of what I'm saying. So we have 815 here, right? Okay, so now we have a couple of 815, yeah? So what this is saying is, okay, it has grouped it for us to say when 815 product ID has order quantity of 1, there is 67 times of that. When 815 has a order quantity of 2, there is 61 of that. When this has an order quantity of 3, there is 49 of this. So what this means again is, if we go back to that query I ran before, which was select count of product ID alone, if you had the time and you wanted to go into the table and find out how many times 815 was purchased with order quantity of 1, you will count 67 times of all the 121,317 columns that was returned, that rows that was returned rather. So this is what we're saying here. And anytime you use a count function like this, it doesn't have a column name, so you could just give it a column and say, use an alias as number of times purchased, number of times purchased. So if you run this, now we have number of times purchased. So 815 was purchased 67 times when the person came to buy 1. 815 was purchased 61 times when the customer bought 2. When the customer bought 13, we only have one occurrence of that. And this is a pattern as a data analyst that might be important for you. By the time we plot this into our Tableau dashboard, you would understand a little bit more what we're trying to achieve here. And actually, I'm actually going to do that for you today. We're actually going to go into Tableau today to help you see what we're trying to explain. So you can see that if we say buy 10, get 10 free, the question is, when this product was bought at 10 times at order quantity of 10, how many people actually bought it? How many? Just one. Now compare that relationship with when it was sold with just one quantity, 67 times. And you see, the analysis can go on and on and on like that, and you start comparing products. We're actually having a look at product ID 815 here. Let's take 2 product IDs. I'm not sure if there's 8, but let's see. There isn't. Let's just pick one randomly. 925. Now for 925, let's have a look at the relationship. When 925 was purchased at order quantity 1, it was purchased 59 times. When it was 2, it was purchased 71 times. Let's go to, was there any time they bought 10? No, nobody actually bought 10. But there are closer figures. So there's 9, there's 11. So someone actually bought 9 quantity. But how many people actually did that? Just one. There's only one occurrence of that. 11, just one. So you can see there's a pattern that when they buy fewer quantities, there is more sales. Similarly with this one, There's more cells. Now, by the time we plot all the 121,000 rows that was returned, by the time we now plot it on the graph, you can easily see how the graph will perform. And we're going to do that now. So let's return all our data back. Let's remove the filter. We have everything, and this is what we actually asked you to do. So let me copy this and open up an Excel file. And mind you, if you want to copy this, all you need to do is just click on this right here and right click, copy with headers, or you can just copy alone. It's up to you. Copy with headers. That's what I'll do. And I can come into my Excel and just paste. And now I have the data. So you can do your analytics even within Excel by using pivot table or pivot chart. But we're not going to go into that today. I just want to, we're still going to delve into some more Tableau related work. But for today, let's just see how this will go in Tableau. So again, we're going to have to skip this update for now. We're going to have to save this first. I'll save to my desktop. Session 6. And let's bring up our Tableau. So we're going to connect to Excel. As you can see, there are a lot of places we can connect to. I'm using Tableau Public. If I were to be using Tableau Desktop, I would have the functionality to connect to SQL Server directly, or Oracle, or any RDBMS, SAS, there's several places you can connect to, so you can be getting live data. But in our case, we're just going to be connecting to our Excel file. So I want to go into my desktop and session 6. So you can see our data has now come into Tableau. Yes. So what you want to do is you want to go into sheet. So it works a little bit like Excel. So you know Excel has this little thing right here where you could just open new sheet and get as much more sheet as you want. Similarly, Tableau has that kind of thing. So there's a sheet here. So if you click on the sheet, it comes to this interface. And going by our lecture last week on session 5, where we talked about dimensions and facts, remember that dimensions usually are not the numbers that you do calculation or aggregation on, but facts are the contains the kind of data that we can do aggregation calculation on. But that doesn't mean that dimensions cannot be numbers. They can be numbers sometimes. For example, your dimension can have ID. Product ID can be a dimension. But obviously you can't say you want to add product ID together. That doesn't make sense. You can't add IDs together, but you can add number of times a product was purchased together. Does that make sense? So yes, so that's what we're trying to say here. So you can see Tableau is so smart that it identifies the dimensions and the measures. So the dimension in our case is the product ID, because if you look at let's go back to our query. We can do calculation on order quantity. we can say, okay, we want to sum up all the orders that were purchased. We can also say we want to sum up all the number of times that the product was purchased, but we can't sum this up, you know. So that alone makes it very, very, a smart thing for this kind of tool to be able to identify which one is dimension, which one is measures. And again, that's where your own technicality come to play sometimes when you import data into Tableau. And let's say, for example, because Tableau can't be smart 100% all the time, and let's say, for example, something that you expect to be dimension falls into the category of measures, or facts, vice versa. And you can, use your technicality, your knowledge, what you already know, to be able to repair that kind of situation and say, okay, no, you're not a measure, go into the dimensions column. You're not a dimension, you should be with the measures. And if you click on this arrow and go into, no, by the time we move it there, I'll show you what I intend to do. So for now, I'm just going to say, okay, products ID, let me drag this and bring it into the columns. So you can see all our product ID comes out like that. And if I say, okay, how many times was this product purchased, I could just bring this here. And you can easily see how Tableau has smartly transformed the figures, the numbers, into a chart that you can, without being told, without running extra query, you can immediately tell that 870 has the highest number of times that it was purchased. And you can start doing all manner of fantastic analysis from here. So what I wanted to show you before was, if you click on this place, you can go into your measures and you start seeing different things. You can do average, median, you can do count, you can do minimum, maximum, percentile, and give the value of the percentile you intend to do, standard deviation, variance, and whole number of statistical aggregations that you can do. So, I mean, let's say, for example, we want to see average. You see, it changes automatically. And let's say if we wanted to do count, right? So these are, fantastic things that we can actually do. So let me see, let me leave it at number of times purchased. I'll leave it at some, and I want to bring order quantity to the rows section. Something I need you to understand is this: we have columns here, we have rows. It's simple. It's the same thing we have in SQL Server, where columns are on the top and rows are the ones by the side. If you look at your Tableau, that's the same thing that's happening. Because we put product ID on the column area, so we have columns there. Because we put these other measures on the rows area, we have rows by the side. So if you see here, we have number of times purchased. That's for this number of times purchased, and we have it in sum. So that's what we have. Order quantity, we have it in sum as well. That's what we have here. And you can start doing your different analysis and say, okay, look at the figures, look at the charts, and if you come to show me, you have several options of how you want to present the chart. So let's say, for example, I actually want to see them side by side. I could just click on this one here, and you can see immediately it brings them side by side. And you can see that product ID 707 has a number of times purchased 3083, and the same 707 has an order quantity of 197. So you can start seeing analysis, placed side by side. All right, and you can do a number of things. So something that I would like to do is actually I had done it before, so rather than going through it, let me just bring it up and walk you through it. So I'm gonna go to Tableau because there's a way you could actually uh, get on Tableau from the internet, because you can save these things and save them in a public repository for Tableau. So Tableau public. So sign in. All right. Okay. Actually, it wouldn't be nice this way. I'm actually looking for a better way to show you this thing. Okay, let me just download the workbook. So you can do the same. You can download the workbook and open it. Okay, and then we can go into each of the sheets. So these are sheets. These are sheets, and then there is a generalized dashboard. So let's have a look at the first sheet. So what we have is we have the product ID, and we have both of our measures, like I showed you before, number of times purchased and order quantity. Now, looking at the measures, we have the count of number of times purchased. So if you come into this place, where is it? Actually, mm, let me remove this and then remove that. Okay, so we have our product ID here. So if I bring this and bring that, yeah, so you can see that anytime you drag these things around, Tableau just automatically suggests a kind of graphical interface for you. So it's up to you to now start changing them. All right. So that's what we have. So once you do this and you have these measure names changed right here, you can just come to this card, this marks area, measure value. So you can change it. So what I want to see is I want to see a count of number of times purchased. So I could go to our measure and just change it to count. And then I want to see the average of the order quantity. So if you look at this filter here, let me remove this order product ID and measure. So without the filter, this is what you would have, and you have all manner of data. So I can say filter is like saying where clause, right? So let me bring product ID into the filter area first, and this would come up, and you can first of all exclude everything. You can exclude everything and say okay. Because I excluded everything, it all disappeared. So what I can do again is I can come back here and say show filter, so I can see it here. So now I can start clicking on the particular products that I want to see. So these 5 products, I brought them back, and I can start doing my analysis and say, okay, product ID has, was purchased 3,000 plus times, but averagely, how many order was made? 707. You see? So these are the kind of things that you can, end up doing. You will have to play around, drag things around, do all manner of analysis, create another sheet, do similar things, and then similarly I've done something else here, which is the reference line. So I could bring the product ID again and bring the number of times purchased and the order quantity, right? I can move them around and say this. Data, this is analytics. So you can add trend reference line. So I could drop this in here and say, okay, what's the reference line that I'm looking for my average, average for each of them, for example. So you might want to do a sum, you might want to do like let's say maximum, but average is the most common one anyway, so that you can easily see the average for each of them. Okay, so you may want to do that, or Control Z will take it, all the things you've just done away, take it back, Control Z. Or you might want to do average line. Okay, that's just what we did just now. I mean, you could play around and have a look at the different things that you could do. You could even do a forecast, but obviously to do forecast you need a lot of data. This is a very little kind of data that you can work with this, but going by the possibilities that you find in analytics, um, what's it called, this thing right here, I don't know what to call it, but the analytics pane, yeah. So you could play around here and figure out what you intend to achieve. So going back to data, and then you can eventually start building up your dashboards. And dashboard is, you know, there are a number of things here. Like we have new worksheet, new dashboard, new story. So you can click on new dashboard. Given the different sheets that you have, you can start dragging them like that, and drag again. Let me drag. Okay. Aha, there is it. So size, you could come to size, and if you do automatic, then it comes up like that. Yeah. So this is not the best dashboard you can ever think of, but this is typically just to demonstrate how you can start doing analytics. So we will be providing you with more videos on Tableau, which would go into details of each of these things that you're looking at, going from the sheet, having to bring in data, having to do all manner of analytics. You will get all the details from the videos that we provide from our portal. But on a very high level, this is basically what you end up doing. So the bulk of the work, to be honest, is actually bringing up your query at first and understanding what is required of you. Once you understand this and you're able to narrow it down and eventually turn it into something that can be presented in the form of a data like this, you could easily just export it into an Excel file, bring it into Tableau, and start doing analytics with it. So this is like the first time we're officially bringing you into analytics proper, and we'll be doing a lot more of such analytics coming in the next couple of weeks ahead. So this is where we're actually going to stop our session for today. There is still another part of the business requirement. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? I can't find it. Oh, there it is. Yeah. So there is still another part, which is this. Secondly, write a query to return the order dates, product subcategory, category name, territory name, the number of times the product was purchased, and quantity purchased. None of you actually submitted this as assignment, and I would recommend that you do this because it's similar to what we just done today. It's just a matter of joining more tables to the query. The same query, this same query is the same thing. You just need to join more tables to bring all the other columns. And once you have that, then we have to start talking about how to bring this into Tableau and start doing some analytics with it. All right, so this is where we're going to end today's session. Do you have any question? Does anybody have any question? Okay, so Damilola is asking a question here, and she actually sent a query. She's having issues with joins, and she sent this query to have a look. So select PS name, comma PC name from as PS name. The problem you're having here is because you want to qualify this column here and this column here using this alias, but you haven't put a dot in between. Unless you put a dot in between, then you won't be able to. Oh, I mean, okay, sorry. No, what you've done is you actually called it PS name, right? You called it PS name. So what you've done is actually you've repeated the name of the table here. PS name, you repeated PS name until you put a dot after PS name before it can start suggesting the names of the columns for you. So you can see it has suggested that for you, and the red squiggly is gone. Similarly, if you know PC name is the other table, PC name. So PC name, if you put a dot, and then you would have it there, and that's it. You're done. If I execute this, you can see I have the query back, because what you did before was something like this. Let me show you what you did before. What you did before was this. You said PC name. Now imagine if you didn't use an alias here. Imagine, let's just imagine you didn't use alias here. What you've literally done is say you copied this and you pasted it here, because you named that PS name, right? And then you came here and named this PS name. That's what you've done. It's like you're saying select table from table. Do you understand? And then you've literally done this and this. Do you understand? That's what you've done. So because what's the whole essence of using alias? The whole essence of using alias is so that we won't have a query that is so long. Do you understand? So that we can simplify and make our code look a lot more readable. That's the whole essence of using alias. So now that you've chosen not to use alias in this case, you can just say dot, and then it will bring out the table name, the column name rather. You say dot again, it brings out this, right? And you can see this PS name is no longer valid because it's no longer alias. So what you want to do now is copy this, replace it with this, and copy this, replace it with this. And now you would have your data. So it's not different from this. The same thing. The only difference is that here you have used an alias PS to replace this. And think about it. Imagine if you made your alias here just P and this one just C, because your alias could be anything. And for your own sake, let me just put alias there as, because if you don't put it, it will work. So here I remove all this long. That's the essence of alias, because we don't want to be writing something long like that. Just replace it with P. And I would remove all of this also and replace it with C. And you can see now we have a shortened version of the query. And then I can do the same thing here, P, and do the same thing here, C. And you see, now we have a shorter version, and it's the same thing, it will return the same data. So if that's the problem you're having with joins, I hope that solves the problem. Yes? Good. Alright. Do we have any more questions before we call it a day? Alright, cool. Alright, thank you very much for your time today. Look forward to more interesting session with you next week. Try to do the remaining part of the business case, and we'll send more business cases out to you to do. If you're watching, if you somehow stumbled on this session, you can also know how to do these things. We don't post the detailed videos on how we came about all these things on YouTube. All we post is the business cases. So to know how to do all these things, you have to, be able to get onto our portal so that you can watch other videos that help, our students to understand how to solve these problems. Thanks for watching, and hope to see you next week. Bye.